so much, Jenny, for being here. We are excited to learn more about you and what you have to offer. So without further ado, please tell us more about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I developed a coaching program that I offer in one-on-one coaching sessions with me. And also, I just launched the same program on a course so people can do it on their own. Um, and essentially, prior to being a coach, I spent about 16 years as a CFO. I worked for a number of startups. So, sort of my whole career has been around money, but most of that time was spent focused on corporate finances. And what I realized all those years of being a CFO and having a lot of young employees, and particularly young women, was that there was a real lack of one, financial literacy, which we all know, but also support for these folks. People that want to know whether they should save for retirement or pay down their student loan debt. There really wasn't a lot of resources out there. And so all those years that I was a CFO, a lot of people came to me for personal finance advice. And I decided that I wanted to help be part of that solution. And then I also went through my own personal transformation around finances and realized that there's a great need, not only with the tactical elements of personal finance, how do you build the right goals and build a comprehensive financial plan and then act on that, but there's also an inner world of money that often holds a lot of people back, particularly women. And there's no one addressing that. And so I coach women on both the inner world of money and the outer world. So I blend money mindset work, making sure that you surface limiting beliefs that you may have around money, that you understand where they came from and how they've driven you to take certain behaviors that have produced specific results. And then I help you untease all of that and rework it so that it's to your greatest benefit. But then I don't just stop there. I then bring in core financial planning fundamentals to help you have an actual roadmap, right? So it's one thing to have the right money mindset. It's another to have the right roadmap and tools to actually build wealth and pay off debt and achieve any other financial goal that's important to you. And I did pass the CFP exam, Certified Financial Planner. I went through all of that coursework, but I decided I didn't want to be a full-time financial planner. I wanted to be more of a coach and be able to blend these two worlds together. Financial planners don't really do mindset work. And I felt like I wanted to offer something much more holistic to my clients.
Wonderful. And what topics are you seeing that women are asking you about the most?
Yeah, I think a lot of women come to me and they have a lot of stories they've been telling themselves, and their questions are to validate those stories. So a lot of folks feel like they're falling behind, and they want to know, am I really falling behind? Does everyone else have a higher net worth than I do? Does everyone else have the same level of debt that I do? And so a lot of the questions that I get are around validating stories, which most of the time aren't true. And so I spend a lot of time sort of clarifying for folks that most people are sort of in the same boat. Most people don't have enough money for retirement. Most people are sitting on expensive debt, but not a lot of people actually take steps to correct that, right? Some other questions I get that come up quite frequently are also around misconceptions, which is, I have all this debt, I need to pay it off, right? So this idea that all debt is bad, and how do you go about getting rid of all of it? And sometimes people need to recognize that being debt free is awesome, and if you can achieve that, that's wonderful. But it's much more important to understand that not all debt is the same and to prioritize effectively. And then the other question I get quite a bit is, how much should I be saving? Saving for what? So often the questions that come to me just generate a lot more questions back to the person asking them. A lot of people are concerned that they're not saving, but they don't actually know what they would be saving for. They just understand that they should be saving for something, right? And then, if you don't know what your end goal is that you have and you just start taking action, you won't stick with it. You'll abandon it because you're not clear on why you're doing it in the first place. So a lot of the questions folks have, they don't actually need the answer. What they need to do is step back and peel back some of the onion layers and ask themselves questions.
Now, are you seeing that there is one specific thing that is causing women a lot of stress in regards to these topics?
Yeah, I think if I had to bucket all of the stress and worry that I see from my clients under one umbrella, I would say it's a sense of uncertainty. We live in a world where we're full of images about people having things and experiences, and we create a story that they must have a bigger savings account than I do. They must have a lot of money because they're driving a really nice car, or they have a very big house. And so social media has kind of caused a lot of people to feel like they're behind, and that everyone else is progressing a lot faster from a financial perspective than they are. And that's causing a lot of internal stress, when the reality is that what you see on social media isn't the reality, right? And financial planners know this because they get into the details of people's situations. And a lot of the folks that might appear to be well off, millionaires perhaps, or they have a high net worth, actually don't own a lot of what they're photographing and sharing with the world, right? So there's a lot of leverage going on there. And so when clients come and they're super stressed and worried, a lot of it doesn't have to do with their own situation. It has to do with someone else's situation that they have a belief is better than theirs, right? So often clients will come to me and they'll say, oh, I have so much debt. I'm just swimming in debt. And I'll look at their finances, and maybe they've got a credit card that's got a few $1,000s on it, but oftentimes they have a really nice net worth, and they have no concept that that they're actually doing much better than they are, because they're so stuck in comparison mode of comparing to someone else while not fully understanding my own situation. And that whenever we are out of touch with our own reality, and we're spending all of our time and focus on what we perceive to be someone else's reality, we're just creating a lot of stress for ourselves. So I see that quite a bit. But the good news there is that that's pretty easy to unravel. Once people have a clear view of their own personal finances, and they realize that it's not as bad as they thought it was, and that they're actually doing okay, there's a pretty quick mindset shift there, and that stress just starts to sort of shed, right? I think the other element here around uncertainty is when people don't have a clear vision for their own life, they tend to look outside for cues about what they should be achieving and going after, right? And that, when there's a disconnect there between what you really want and what the external world is telling you you should want and have, there's a friction there. And so you might be creating goals that are meaningless to you, trying to work towards those, abandoning them because they're meaningless to you, and then beating yourself up because you're not achieving goals that really weren't the right goals for you in the first place. So a lot of the anxiety, the worry is around a lack of clarity, of your own financial situation, and then also what it is that you want your life to be.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is a topic that is going around a lot, is people comparing themselves and their financial situation with what they are seeing on social media. And it's a huge distraction. So what would you say your clients often get wrong or misunderstand, not just about their financial situation, but when it comes to what they're seeing out there?
Yeah, I think I think there's a couple of things here. When it comes to your own personal finances, we have a lot of money scripts that run around, and they're very common, which is, I will be good at managing money if I'm not good at math. Managing my own finances is super hard. I need to find someone that'll do it for me. if I had more income, my situation would be different. So we have all these sort of roadblocks that we've created ourselves that are not reality. And we use them as an escape hatch to avoid really dealing with our own situation. And so most of the clients that I work with, they don't know what their net worth is. They've never consolidated all of their financial information. Oftentimes they do know exactly what their debt is because they fixated on that, but they don't know what the value of any of their assets are. They have old 401k and retirement accounts all over the place from previous jobs that they've had. Their financial house isn't in order, and they think that it's super stressful and complicated to get it in order, and it actually isn't. I'm a firm believer that managing your money should take you no more than 10 to 15 minutes every week. And if it's taking you longer than that, something needs to change. We're exceedingly blessed to live in the year 2023 when we can automate everything, when everything can be digital. We don't need to, walk down to the bank with a check to get money out anymore, and we need to take advantage of that. We need to recognize that as an incredible blessing and take advantage of it to our best ability. And it takes just intention. You have to be intentional about it. I think a lot of people they know what they should do. They avoid doing it because they're afraid of what it's going to tell them. They're afraid it's going to show them they have a negative net worth, or they have more debt than their assets, or their cash flow is out of control. But if you don't take the first step of actually pulling your finances together and standing back and looking at them holistically, how can you ever expect your situation to change? It never will. And so that's part of the first processes that I go through with my clients is, we surface their limiting beliefs about money, often which are kind of implanted in their subconscious when they're very young children. So your parents' limiting beliefs about money become yours. Then we tie those beliefs to actual behaviors that they're having and habits. And oftentimes that's avoidance. I'm avoiding my money because I have this limiting belief, or I'm avoiding managing my money because I have a limiting belief that I'm not good at math, therefore I won't be good at doing it. And then we actually look at the results that they have that are tied to those behaviors and those beliefs. And when people can connect those dots and see, oh, okay, well, first off, these beliefs are garbage. They're not true. And they've led me to take actions that are not in my best interest. And they've produced results that could have been better. Then they have a light bulb switch goes off, and they're motivated now because they see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's a path to fixing this. And that's sort of what I just described as sort of the first phase of my coaching program. The second phase goes into actually rebuilding everything from scratch: your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits and rituals around money, your vision and your goals. And then the third part of my process is more of the financial planning, where we actually put the right mechanisms in place for you. I don't believe in budgets. But let me take that back. I believe budgets work for certain people, but the majority of people, they're not useful. All of your finances can be completely automated. You can get to a point where you're only spending 10 minutes a week on them. And you can make effortless trade-offs. And the key to making effortless trade-offs is to know what really matters to you and what doesn't. And so if a coffee at a Starbucks really matters to you, then it's a trade-off you shouldn't make, right? And so my program helps people see that all the things they thought they were avoiding by not dealing with their financial situation can be easily resolved, and in a painless way, and in a way that does not mean that you're going to be held accountable to some strict budget, and then responsible for monitoring it on a daily basis, and these kind of silly mechanisms that are out there around putting cash in envelopes and stuff like that. You don't need to do any of that stuff. If you do the inner work of money, you get clear on why you want to manage your finances and what the outcome will be, and then you put the right systems in place. You don't need to do all of that, all that sort of tedious stuff.
Yeah, it can get overwhelming for some
Mhm.
people. And that itself can stop someone from not really looking into their finances.
Totally.
So aside from creating that awareness and mindset that you're talking about, how can people stay inspired to better manage their money?
Yeah. Well, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the word inspired, right? So, you know, if anyone's ever been a member of a gym, you know that in January a ton of people show up at the gym, and by February they're not showing up anymore. And the reason for that is that they set a goal that didn't mean anything to them. They set a goal because someone, gave them the impression that they should be more fit or they should lose weight. Maybe they should. But unless they felt really strongly about that, they're not going to follow through on it. And that's why a lot of resolutions and goals kind of evaporate very quickly. The key to staying inspired and to create and maintain momentum is to have something really meaningful. And by meaningful, I mean it causes you to have an emotional reaction. You have to set meaningful goals um, that you're so tied to emotionally that you would never even dare to abandon. And so, how do you do that in the realm of personal finance? You have to have a vision first. So, one of the problems I have with the way that financial planning is typically handled is it it uses a lot of benchmarks. It says, oh, you should be saving 10% every year of your salary, or by the time you're 45, you should have 3 years worth of compensation in your retirement accounts. Those are both better than nothing. It's better to save 10% than to save 0%, but they're meaningless. What does that mean? What does saving 10% mean to me? Does it mean that I'm going to be a millionaire at some point? Does it mean that I'm going to have the kind of retirement I want to have? Does it mean that I'm saving too much today and I'm miserable because I don't have any money to spend on anything? And so we have to move away from setting meaningless goals if we want to stay inspired and motivated to achieve them. And the key to doing that is to have a vision. And a vision is a very clear picture in your imagination of what your life can be. What your life can be a year from now, 10 years from now, when you're at retirement, when you're on your deathbed. What is that vision for your life? You've got to see it so clearly. And then you've got to feel it. You've got to embody the emotions associated with it today. Oftentimes we say, oh, well, I'll feel like I have financial freedom. I'll feel free when I no longer have this debt. That's kind of backwards. You need to feel that way now while you're working towards paying down your debt. Otherwise, you're going to feel miserable in the process and eventually give up. So we often have this backwards thinking that I'll feel that way once I achieve this thing. Flip it around. I'll feel that way now as I'm achieving this thing. And that's what visioning helps. It helps you get clear on what it is you want to achieve and get clear on how you'll feel about it. And then you can take that vision and you can do what are called visualization exercises, which kind of strengthens and helps you sustain that momentum, which is to actually imagine the end. So if your vision is to have financial freedom, at least once a week, you should be sitting there and imagining what that's going to look like. How's it going to feel? How happy are you going to be when that credit card statement comes in the mail and it shows a zero balance? How are you going to feel about that? And constantly do that so that you stay in that state and you continue to maintain your momentum there. And then some other tools that can help with that is a vision board. Oftentimes people jump to a vision board before they actually have a clear vision, which makes the vision board useless. It's just a nice art piece. You got to have the vision first and then use the visualization exercises and the vision board to help keep that vision clear for you and a part of your day to day. And then when you have that vision, and this is part of my coaching program, I take that vision and I help my clients break it down into intentions and goals. So if your vision is, and by the way, your vision could have nothing to do with your personal finances at a surface level. But like for example, I have a client. Her vision is to have beautiful skin. When she did her visioning exercise, one of the things that surfaced for her was a vision of herself with beautiful skin. And so we sat there and we thought, like, what are the financial components of this? What might you need financially to achieve this? And on the surface, it didn't seem like a finance goal, but then when you really think about what she needs to do to achieve that, we did come up with some monetary goals for her, and then we built a plan for her to achieve that. So that's the key to circle back around to your question. How to stay inspired is you got to get inspired from day one and maintain that throughout. And as soon as you
Yeah.
start slipping and feeling less than inspired, or because we all will, it's not perfect. We're all human. So inevitably we're going to mess up at some point. We're going to be saying we're paying down debt and then we accidentally use our credit card. But the key is to then quickly shift back to that vision. What's that vision? Why do I want it so much? How's it going to make me feel once I've accomplished this? And that's how you keep going.
Yeah, I absolutely love that reminder and that statement, because it's true. A lot of people say that they won't feel happy until they pay off their credit card or their student loan. But the key is to create that pathway with that vision in the future, today, now in the present moment, and actually feel it, right? Feel
Yeah,
happy in the
absolutely.
now
Yeah,
without discouraging yourself, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if and this applies to everything, and an easy example I typically use when people have a hard time understanding this concept is, if you want to have more friends, you have to be friendly. you know, you can't say, I want to, by the end of this year, I want to have a lot of friends, and then proceed to act throughout the year as someone who's not friendly, right? And, and we realize, this makes sense in a lot of areas of our life. But when it comes to finances, I think people have a really hard time understanding, wait, I want to be wealthy. I'm very broke right now, but you're telling me I need to feel like I'm wealthy in order to be wealthy. And it's like, yes.
Right, right. No, yeah, that's wonderful. Now, with so many resources available on the internet and social media nowadays, how do you best connect with your audience?
Yeah. So I write. I've always been a writer. I like that's how I like to communicate best. So I write regularly on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Medium. And I'll be launching a blog in the next couple weeks. Um, I don't do. I'm not really big on video. I like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, because one of the concerns I have is that people, when you watch a 15-second video on personal finance giving you some sort of tip or trick you should do with your money, creates this idea that you can, you know, um, tip or trick your way to wealth or your way to financial freedom. And you can't. You can't get there by picking up a tip here and picking up a tip there. You really do have to have a holistic plan. And I get a little bit concerned when there's a lot of finance advice being given out in 15, 30-second chunks here and there, because it's creating that idea that if you just follow a few videos you saw on TikTok, that you're good to go. And it's really not how you should be approaching your personal finances. So I tend to stay away from that. I also think my message and what I communicate can't fit into a 15-second quick video. And if I did, I wouldn't be adding a lot of value to the consumer there. So that's how I connect with my clients. And then I have my own platform. It's called blissandwealth.com. And I have a lot of free resources on there. I just launched a money mindset quiz so people can take that and find out, did they have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset, and what they could do if they have either or. Because just because you have an abundance mindset doesn't mean you have the tactical skills and know-how to actually build the right roadmap for yourself. And then I also have a course which takes people through my whole coaching program, but it's self-paced, so they can do it themselves. And then I also offer one-on-one coaching.
Great. Great. Now, if there is one takeaway for people to take from this interview, what would it be?
I guess my main message that I'm trying to get across to people, particularly women, is that money, whether it's building wealth or paying off debt, having financial freedom, whatever it is, money is not, uh, the world of money is not wrapped up solely in the actions that you take. That there is an inner element of wealth building or financial freedom that if you don't tend to the inner work of money, you can follow all of the external advice that you'll find, and you may likely not get where you want to go. So, a lot of people have experienced this in their lives, but they never step back and actually realize it because they don't know that there's a whole element to how you think, your beliefs about money that are impacting you. And if you're one of those people that sets goals, okay, I'll pay off this credit card, or I'll save for a down payment on a house, or whatever, and you find yourself in this repetitive cycle of having all the best intentions and then not following through, realize this. One, the goal wasn't right for you to begin with, because if it was the right goal for you and it was truly meaningful, you would have achieved it. And so don't beat yourself up about that, but then realize that the reason why you're in this doom loop, what I call a financial doom loop here, is because there's inner work that you need to do around money. You need to surface your limiting beliefs. You need to understand how those beliefs have led you to take certain behaviors or adopt certain habits. You need to realize that you may be setting meaningless goals because you haven't surfaced the vision for your life. Like, what is it that you want out of this experience that we call life? And then make sure that you have a financial plan and goals that align with that. Otherwise, you're going to be in this state of friction where you're chasing goals that are meaningless for you and failing at achieving them, and then beating yourself up about it, creating more negative thoughts and beliefs about the whole situation. Then you're stuck in that constant loop. And you can follow, if you think about that loop in terms of a timeline, it's thoughts repeated over time become beliefs, which become your behaviors, which repeated over time become your habits, which then produce your results. And then when you're not happy about the results, you start right back at the beginning with more negative thoughts about that, and on and on and on. You're in that constant loop, right? Changing the actions you're taking, it's too far down the line. It doesn't work. You got to start back at the beginning. You have to start back at the beginning and change your thoughts to then change your beliefs and your behaviors and your habits, and then your actions and your results. And so stop beating yourself up trying to follow every tip and trick that you find online. Just step back and be willing to put in the time and effort it takes to do the inner work of money. I've got some great resources on my site if you're not clear on what that really means. And really start from scratch. And you can do it in a short amount of time. It's not like doing all of this will take years and years. For me personally, it took me 6 months, but I was doing it on my own.
Yeah, those are great takeaways. Thank you so much, Jenny. That wraps up our interview. And for those of you who are watching and want to learn more about Jenny and her amazing services that she offers, please look at the video description below. And again, thank you so much for your time, Jenny. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you so much.